do this right at the end.
So how do you think we should start?
Stop recording. I don't feel comfortable when you do that. Wait, switch it off really quickly.
No, just talk. It's not going anywhere.
I know, but I feel I know it's being recorded. That's the thing.
Well, don't look at it. You just have to concentrate on what you want to say. That's the thing. That's the beauty of it sounding normal and flowing more better, I guess is the word. Look, it's 2019. Podcasting has been out for relatively a long time.
Yeah.
We're just getting into the nitty gritty. Oh, we're not nitty gritty. We're literally taking the plunge into podcasting. Do you think it's a good time to be coming into podcasting?
Yeah, I guess so, because more people are gonna start listening, I guess.
Because we were debating the fact whether we do something with the podcast or whether we do something with the YouTube.
The people do it on YouTube as well. So you have the YouTube, but then they also live it on podcasts, so you do two things at the same time.
Okay.
If you want to do that. They usually introduce it in the title, not in, like, if you just switch it on, it will be straight into the topic, whatever they said in the title.
Okay. All right, we can just fire off and see how we get on then.
Cool, yeah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. My name is Faisal, and I will be your host on this podcast, which is called Minimalistic Muslim. And with me is my co-host. Hello, co-host.
Hi.
Introduce yourself, co-host.
Okay, so my name's Iman. So I'm going to be your co-host, just talking a little bit. But yeah, so I don't know, what else?
Okay, well, Iman, you are, in fact, my daughter.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is our first ever podcast, and we are diving into this world as we believe we have certain thoughts and ideas that we can share that will possibly be of interest to other similar people, and kind of give an idea whether there is an audience for such a thing. But I wanted to start this podcast off. It's a pilot podcast. It's it's the first one. We don't really know how this stuff works, how in any way, we don't have that experience to sit there and say, okay, this is what we've got to do. But I mean, at the end of the day, it was thought, let's just go raw and talk about things that are of interest to us, and just see how and play along with it and see how we get on. There are a lot of things I would like to touch on eventually in different episodes, but today, just as an idea as to the title of the podcast, Minimalistic Muslim. Okay? Minimalistic Muslim. Sounds scary. Or can sound scary. Should it sound scary?
Minimalistic Muslim. I don't know.
I mean, minimalistic to some may be a scary word. I think it's got too many syllables in the word.
Yeah.
But to our audience who are not of an Islamic faith, the word Muslim can also be quite a scary word.
Yeah, I guess.
So the thing is to dissect what minimalistic is, whether the two words complement one another. Do you have to be a good Muslim to be in order to be minimalistic, or is it something which means different things to different people?
Right. Yeah.
I came across something which I thought was quite interesting. I mean, we've decided or wanting to be doing this for a short period of time. I think we were speaking about it.
Yeah, a few weeks.
And knowing how I am, and you're probably better to explain it, knowing how your dad is, but I'm the kind of person that makes sure, or does his best to make sure, that I've got the right stuff material-wise. Everything's in its place before I kind of take the plunge into anything. And even with this, it was looking at, let's give ourselves a bit of time. How are we going to do this? What's going to be said? And take it on from there. I came across something I was reading. Where is it? Yeah, it's something I was reading it, and I felt it I kind of naturally gravitated towards it, because I was thinking, you know what, there's a lot of things that you do, and you've got to make sure that you set the perfect time has to be there. Everything that you want to say is all done, planned, and then you're ready.
Yeah.
But in doing so, like when I read this, I don't know what you think of this, but it says that sometimes we become overly concerned with what we need to start, when actual fact, all we really need to do is start.
Deep.
It is, and it's one of the things that is thought provoking, and this is what I was explaining to you a little while ago when we were downstairs, to say, let's just go upstairs and start. And you were like, but you said to me we'll have a few days and we can think about it and we'll take it on from there. But it's just one of those things that when you have certain ideas, the best thing to do is just go and start, and then let it flow and see how things go. That kind of rhymes as well. Didn't
even know it.
Didn't even know that. All right, so minimalistic Muslim.
Right.
All right. So I guess for me, I don't know how you feel, but when someone says, this is a thought I used to have, and this is why I think I've become a bit more passionate in actually expressing certain viewpoints now, because when someone would say to me, oh, I'm a minimalist. I like the simple things in life. And they often spoke about themselves. You would always see, I mean, even now, if you look on something like YouTube, people who promote minimalism, not maybe so in that word, but that lifestyle, you see that they're often single, jetpackers, traveling the world, and kind of saying, well, that's how things should be. And although things like that, when you look at certain lifestyles like that, you have a certain amount of respect for, because obviously traveling does broaden your horizons and you meet different peoples in different cultures. But to me, I was just like, well, I believe that I'm kind of a minimalist, but I don't naturally gravitate to that element of thinking that's what I need to do. And so I thought, well, maybe I'm not. And for then many a years, it was just you plod along through life, doing the best you can, and trying to find yourself, and trying to find deep, meaningful people around you where you can have deep, meaningful conversations, and trying to understand the world that you're living in. And I think as Muslims, it's quite important that we all do that. But how many of us do it, with the right mindfulness? That's the element where I don't know whether I was taking and kind of understanding, all right, this is of interest to me. Yeah. So I've kind of looked at that and said, you know what? Does minimalism mean living a really basic life? Does it mean, and what does that mean? Does it mean that you live like with not a lot of amenities, just the bare necessities, and that is what minimalism is? And that's what I thought. So when someone says minimalistic to you, if someone says to you, oh, I like to live in a minimalistic world, or that you hear that word, what do you think of?
Yes, I think like how you said it before, like very not owning a lot of things, just having a very simple life. And even, I'm just going to say it straight, like I didn't even really come across the word until you actually started to say it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I didn't really know about most of it. Just what you said, yeah, that's what I would have thought. But yeah, I never really actually came across that word before you said it.
Okay, so maybe we can kind of we can break this down together and see if we get a better understanding. I mean, I know my perspective, I guess, and I'm trying to think whether you know your perspective. I mean, the thing is, it's probably wrong of me to kind of sit there and say, do you have a cemented version? Because I've got to remember you're only 14.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so most of certain opinions you have will be shaped as you go through life. But for me, I when I used to speak to people or see people, and you'd see them decluttering their lives, moving things around, and they're taking things away from their life, thinking, oh, I don't need this, I don't need this, I don't need this, I need to live a minimalistic life. It's almost just like it has to be such a holy life, like you have to get away from the world. And I was thinking to myself, hold on, I kind of enjoy certain things, like, and is that wrong with me? And does that make me not a bad person, but does that make me someone who doesn't understand or has difficulty understanding what my faith is asking of me? Because although we all call ourselves Muslim, how many of us consciously make that effort to think, well, okay, we're all Muslims, but that means then we have certain responsibilities and we need to understand certain perspectives. And are we doing a good enough job for that? And so, like I said before, I come across here and I'll be like, well, people are getting things away. They're getting away from things and people, and decluttering their lives. And I mean, I think that whether declutter is the right word, it's just like removing things from their lives and thinking, and it could be things they enjoy, right? So, but they see it as a distraction. No, I need to live this kind of a life. And I'll be like, I don't know if that's for me. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm in my own travels, and I'm listening to other people's opinions, and I'm coming across people who share my opinions and thinking, you know what? Minimalism can simply mean you appreciate the things you have in your life. Okay?
Okay.
So that could be anything. If you appreciate what you have and you have some sort of meaning to why you have it, then you are kind of living a meaningful life and a minimalistic life, because you could have a phone, all right? And you're like, well, I have a phone. It does this. It sets a purpose. And, you've known me, and you know that how often I change my phone. And sometimes people will tell me, I think, bro, it's time to upgrade your phone, Not to say that I hold the old Nokia phones and no touch tone. It's just simply because I don't see the purpose to say, well, it serves its purpose. It's doing what I need it to do.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's the thing. It's doing what I need it to do. I don't need a commercial, an advert telling me, great, the new iPhone 11's coming out. It's got widescreen cameras, and it's got this, it's got that. But then I'm like, brilliant. If I had an iPhone 10, I'm like, well, I need to ditch that and get the new one. I think I'm content. That's the word. Right. Are you content with the things that you have in your life? And if you do, then I think the word minimalism applies to you. And so that's what I'm taking away from it. What do you think?
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I think I agree with you on that point. I didn't really think of it in that way, so you broadened my horizon.
Because with myself, yeah, that's what I'm saying. When I'm looking at these other people and I'm hearing their stories, and I'm thinking that, like, personally, I like to enjoy wearing good clothes. I like good fragrances, and I'm thinking, but does my faith? We'll talk about the Islamic side later,
right? Yeah.
But I'm trying to just interpretate the word minimalism, because it can be quite a scary and misunderstood word. People think, and as I did, minimalism means just living, saying no to life, and just taking the bare necessities. Yeah, pretty much so. Isolating yourself, and that was something that never attracted to me. But then people do that, but it may be their version of, it's almost just like, are you doing this because you want to do this? I mean, saying no to something you enjoy, which in Islam may not be haram. It's not haram to enjoy yourself. But then this is why we have halal and haram, permissible and non-permissible. And this is where I think people may have differences of opinion, and we respect that. Yeah. There is no one way. So like I said, initially when I was looking at this term, and I'm thinking, I enjoy the beauties of dunya, looking up, enjoying the sunsets, the walks, nature. And we're blessed to live where we do, where we are away from the cities, and we can enjoy that. And it's not as a fast moving pace, but you appreciate the life, you appreciate moments, and you create memories. And for me, you could do that wherever you could, but it's just a matter of, are you being mindful? That's a word that we see coined quite a lot today, where people are saying about mindful. You've got certain gurus talking about it, but everything we're talking about has an element of Islam and Deen in it. And the beauty is in that when we dissect that, not too deep, because neither of us are scholars, pretty much we'll keep it surface level, but it just shows appreciation in life, and to sit there and enjoy the comforts and the blessings Allah's given you, which is nothing. It's almost like saying, and we'll touch upon this, I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but if someone says to you, it's like, if you see someone who's a Muslim and Allah's blessed them with a lot of wealth, sometimes when you find people who are not as wealthy, they look kind of down upon that person, oh, they shouldn't have that much money, or they're spending that much money on dunya, and they're doing X, Y, Z, and it's a blessing to be living a simple life, and you shouldn't have all that wealth, and what have you. And I guess to a certain level, with that kind of understanding, it's you can understand arguments for it and against it, but we don't know how much that person gives in charity. Yeah, we just see people with the nice car, the nice house, but they may be the best of people, because there are stories even within our tradition where we've had wealth and we've used it in the right way. Yeah, and when I say right way, we've helped others.
Yeah,
it's not
charity.
about consumption and more of a capitalistic
Yeah,
society, which we've ended up, which we'll tap about. But it's kind of looking at an overall holistic opinion on things and thinking, all right, so does it mean we can enjoy life? And does it mean we shouldn't be quick to judge others? And I think that's what it is. Everyone's trying to find that simple life, but they're finding it in different ways. And they're either stumbling across it or they're getting inspired by other people. But the subhanAllah, the wisdom behind it is that when you look into our tradition, our religion, it is in there to say, and like I said, you'll find people, heavyweight individuals, scholars, who've had either affluent backgrounds, come from wealthy backgrounds, and have used that wealth in good ways. But the mission was there. So whatever you've got, whatever facilities Allah's blessed you with, are you fulfilling that? And are you doing the best possible thing that you can with the things that you've got? So what do you think about that?
Yeah, not much really to say on top of that.
You know, sometimes you get people who hoard.
Yeah,
All right.
there's people.
So
TV shows.
there's the difference now. Okay. So for me, when you're hoarding, when you're holding onto things unnecessarily,
Yeah.
okay, then my question is that you're not able to distinguish the fact that the thing that I'm hoarding, do I need that?
Right.
Or have I just got it for a certain purpose? It's just there because it's there. And that's why you get certain people now which say to you, declutter your life.
Yeah.
And because once you declutter your life or declutter things in your life, then it kind of makes more sense as to what do I need, and does that thing bring me happiness, comfort, and is there a purpose for that? So you could have, I don't know, 4 phones.
Right.
Is that realistic now? No, 2 phones, 3 phones, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, one work phone, one home phone.
Yeah, right. But the question may be, do you need 2 phones?
That's true. Yeah.
Now, I have 2 phones, but as you know, I use one for business and one for
Leisure, family.
right. So, but it's whether you have the ability to say, right, this is what I have a use for it. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, someone could say to me, well, why do you need 2? You could just still have one and operate that as a business, as a personal. I choose not to do that. It makes it easy for me, the way I am, to say, no, I like to keep that separate, and I like to keep that separate.
Yeah, organized.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I am. And it's not to say that there's an element of, I don't know. It's like I said, I see myself as that. I just know how things work for me, and I don't desire more than that. So I don't look at, okay, now even though I've got 2 phones, let's look at something else. It's just like, no, I'm quite content with that. And I think that's the important thing to find, whether you find contentment in what you have. And it's very important to find that. And I think that's why there's a lot of problems in the world that we're living in, where you've got people running after things now. All right? Because you don't have contentment. That you've got sales on every other day. When you were brought up, I mean, especially when I was at school here, it was like that sort of analogy that if you're having a bad day, or if things aren't going your way, then the traditional thing that the woman goes out shopping or something like that just to make herself feel good.
Yeah.
And you're like, right. So we know that's a temporary happiness. We're told that these things give us pleasure, but they give it for a period of time, after which you still got that void, and you're like, what are you doing about it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, well, if you're trying to fill that with things,
it's not gonna work.
then you're making that, yeah. Why? Because you're putting things under the carpet. You're not addressing
Yeah.
what the concern is. And it takes a big thing to do that. And I don't know where I came across this. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a scholar.
Neither am I.
We're not scholars, but we have a fairly good understanding of our faith and what it involves to be a Muslim, especially in Britain.
Yeah.
But also being true to ourselves and knowing what we're about. And I think it's important to know who you are. It's one of life's mysteries, because you meet people and they go through life, and you speak to them in their 60s or 70s or even 80s, and you try to have a conversation, a deep conversation. I don't know if you've had it.
Yeah.
But I've had them a few times, and sometimes you speak to people and they just don't know, like, truly, if they've lived a purposeful life. Like, it'll be like, did I achieve what I wanted to achieve?
Yeah.
Did I do what I wanted to do? And I'm not saying out of the fold of deen. It's just like, so when I'm talking, everything is within the element of deen and what it asks of us. But it's like, did I live a fulfilled life? Did I do the things I wanted to do? Did I know myself?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's like, for those of you who know me know that I do enjoy martial arts movies, or I did when back in the days. But like that movie, I can't remember what the movie was, but Jackie Chan says, I think it was called Who Am I?
No,
But there's certain things that just stick with me, yeah. But he says, who am I? And we're not going to talk about the movie, but it's like he's trying to find out who he is. What's his purpose? Who are you? I mean, that's not what he did, but that's what I took from it. Like, yeah actually, who am I?
Mm.
And I feel that people get lost in the distractions and are either scared to look into that mirror and really ask, who are you? What is it that you want? To get an idea of themselves. What do you think?
Yeah. Well.
Not much to say.
Yeah, I don't know.
So am I talking nonsense?
No, you're not. You got a lot of sense in that. I think I just felt like I haven't really, thought about these kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
See, that's the thing. So for me, I feel it's not. If you have materialism, if you have materialistic things, yeah. So people think,
Okay.
minimalism is not having things. I disagree. I think you have things that you see purpose in and that you enjoy. And it's not there for show. I'm not doing it for the Joneses. I'm doing it for myself. So I enjoy dressing a certain way because I enjoy it for myself. I enjoy smelling a certain way because I do it for myself. I like my home to look a certain way because and when you do that, the important thing for me, and I think this is the advice that I would like to give to people out there, whether you're Muslim first and foremost, but if you're not, but then what if you're doing it for yourself and that's your sole purpose and that's it because it's for you, then I think there's a difference there. As believing people, it's like if we do such a thing and we appreciate such a thing, then we give our thanks to our Creator. Alhamdulillah, we live in a certain way.
Remembrance of Allah at the same time.
Absolutely. Then I think you've cracked it. So you've got these blessings. Now you see them as blessings. You don't see them as, oh, I've got this now, so I can say this to so-and-so, and they're going to look at me and they'll be like, wow, she's got this and the other, envy, jealousy. Unfortunately, these things do exist. But it's like, I'm doing this for myself, and alhamdulillah, for the bounty and the pleasure. And if you're grounded in that way, that to me is true humbleness and being minimalistic. You've taken what you need, not what you've been told that you need. This, which what advertisers do. You need this, you need that, you need. No. Work out who it is that you are. Work out what is it that you want and need in order to live a fulfilled and successful life, because that success in itself is subjective. What it means to one person may not mean something else to someone else. And you need to find purpose and meaning into these words and what they are, and then derive that meaning and say, well, yes, it's actually perfectly normal, right? To be able to live that kind of lifestyle and yet be appreciative to your Lord. Because then that, to me, is someone that you've understood your dunya, and you're also acknowledging the fact that this is because of your Creator. And you can enjoy the bounties of that. And in doing so, if you're blessed with wealth, then my advice is to serve others, because in giving is
pleasure.
You get a different kind of pleasure in helping others.
Yeah.
And rather than doing it to show others, when you do it to seek the pleasure of Allah, it is something. And for those of you who've done it, and that's something between you and Allah, would know that that's a feeling that you can't explain.
Yeah,
you do these things. It's different me saying it to you,
right?
And people listening say, yeah, okay, yeah, we know that. But when you do it, and you have that contentment, it's almost like a contentment, like you feel pleasure in actually giving as well.
Yeah.
If you have the ability to do so, which is why there's so many things that in our religion we're told, if you have the ability to do so. You don't burden yourself and put shackles around your feet if you don't have the ability to do so. So you look at your life, the way Allah has given your life to you, and you have a, they say there's certain things that you're given, living within your means.
Yeah.
We say in English. How many of us actually do that truthfully and sincerely to ourselves, living within our means? Because there's people, like I said, out there who Allah's blessed with money, and they do live within their means in the sense that they are respectful to the wealth that they have. They attribute their wealth to their Lord, and they raise their children in understanding that. And there is no competition with anyone, and it's always showing signs of gratefulness to say this is because of Allah. We should be grateful and all that. It's almost just like when you see, I don't know if our Christians brothers and sisters still do this, but you used to see them do grace at the time of dinner, and they break bread and said, "We give thanks to our Lord." And we do du'as, but it's nice little gestures where you sit there and you say, I appreciate this, or I have this in my hand because of my Lord. Okay. So that, I mean, for me, that's where we're looking at this, and that's where we're heading, especially with this pilot session, just to kind of understand whether it's being a minimalist Muslim in the 21st century in Britain is something that everyone should aspire to be. Or and I mean, for me, if you have that kind of mentality where you believe that you do enjoy the blessings, and these things are blessings, the dunya is there to serve its purpose towards you, not for you to serve its purpose towards it. There's a difference. I think if you understand the formula correctly, then you have cracked something that certain people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s haven't yet understood. And these are important life lessons. So that's my take on actual minimalism, and my definition as to what I think it is, and why I think that after so long, I believe that I am part of, it's something that attracts me, in saying that being a minimalist doesn't mean that I say no to the finer things in life and the things I enjoy, but it's appreciating the fact that what I have, I am content with, and I have the blessings that if I need something, which I need, that knows that there is a purpose for it, that I'm able to do so, knowing that it's the thanks to Allah and being grateful in doing so. And I believe that barakah and Allah's mercy showers upon those who do that. And for those of you who unfortunately have a misunderstanding, in my opinion, who believe that minimalism is someone who should live a life where you say no to dunya, unfortunately, I believe that you need to understand who you are, because a lot of people, or for those of you who do that, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're probably not going to actually say it, but I mean, probably haven't really truly understood themselves, because we're all different, we're all unique, we all have our gifts, and in some ways, like what we're doing now, we have thoughts, we have opinions, which we think should be shared by other people who may seem some sort of maybe in agreement with us, and may think, well, you know what, I felt that for a period of time, but they never got round to actually thinking, well, yes, this is perfectly fine. So that was the reason why I thought it's start off the podcast by explaining
Minimalistic.
I mean, it has a nice connotation to it, minimalistic Muslim, because for those of you who haven't worked out, we are Muslim, but also are people who enjoy, or I would say are minimalists. I mean, I say that for myself, Iman.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Did we even introduce ourselves?
Yeah, right at the beginning.
Did we?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I said myself, and then
Okay. I don't even know if
I think we did. I'm not so sure. Do you want to do it again?
We're gonna do it again?
No, like you can edit it from the beginning.
No, it's fine. We'll go with it. This is the whole beauty of working off the cuff. So it's just thoughts and ideas coming to a head, and we're just sitting there discussing it, and just seeing how it is. So I think for me, it's been important to make sure that you are present. You're here, not physically, but mentally. Like, for example, have you ever been in a like when we go to the fields?
Yeah.
All right. And now that they've chopped off the wheat.
The barley.
Now, when you stand there, the times when we go, just maybe a couple hours before Maghrib, and you've got that open plain, and you're standing there, and you're just taking everything in.
Feels good.
right? So you can feel the air on your face. It's open fields, yeah?
Yeah.
The air on your face. You can, hear the birds in the trees. There's no one there. It's silence. Yeah. Not to say that no one goes there. It's not a spooky. It's not a spooky space. But it's that time of the time of day where we go, where we sit and we're having these deep conversations, but we appreciate nature. Okay. And sometimes it's that moments like that, even when you read the Quran and you have verses where Allah says, do they not think? Do they not ponder? We look at creation. Do we not see the signs of Allah? When we're put in that place and we're thinking, I appreciate the beautiful colors in the sky and the different colors and smells and air, and you appreciate life. It's not to turn that away and say, no, that's, and in that same manner where people can appreciate the nature, if you can do the same thing and say, I appreciate the things in my life because it serves a purpose, that's where I'm coming to. Then I think that you've understood a life lesson which will hopefully, in effect, help you in your travels and help you in rediscovering yourself and understanding your purpose, your goals, your aspirations.
So, do you think it's an age where you start to learn that, or can you learn from any age with contentment?
Good question. See, the thing for me personally is that I think my experience is that when we were growing up here, all right. So as you know, well, listeners don't, but I'm the son of immigrant parents. Okay, economic immigrant parents. So they came here and try to make a life for themselves. Fortunately or unfortunately, okay, this is the word. But we spent a lot of time as a family unit. Okay, so I didn't come, and I hear stories from friends who unfortunately may have not had the same childhood as I, because their parents were working, often father and mother, and so it was about survival almost. Okay, so we need to get the money, we need the bread on the table, we need to eat, and then you go to school, and life just carries on. Okay, we as a family unit had a very tight bond. So my as you know, I lost my father at the age of 12, but up until that time, may Allah bless his soul, inshallah, give him Jannah Firdaus. But in that time that we spent, how many times have you heard from me the memories that I had with him?
Quite a bit, actually.
Yeah. And the times we spent, and like I said, there are certain things that I said I didn't understand, which I do now as a father myself, but the memories are what I remember. And coming back to your question about can you find contentment when you're young, these are conversations that I think are important that you have with your children. It's very important that in a day and age where children can have anything, that you can you stop and you think, all thanks to Allah, be grateful to Allah, but with hikmah and love, not so much with a danda. Yeah. For those of you who don't know what danda is, it's a stick. Yeah. So not so much so with that, but so much with the love, so that you listen. And we'll, this is something we can introduce later, which is parenting. We can do another episode. Right. That's quite a good topic. There's other things that I have on my mind, and it's been coming out since this. But what I want to do is just keep it towards what the minimalistic thing, and then explain where the minimalistic Muslim goes, and whether and examples of such a thing. But with your question with the contentment, I think if you as a child or as my parent, if I enforce that that's quite important to me, and we have a bond, and we have a relationship, and there's a lot of love and respect in that, then you will grow up not knowing that this becomes part of you. And do you know how that is?
No.
It's learnt behavior.
Okay.
So a lot of people do things in life not because
we're told.
Because you've seen it. So and unfortunately there can be a plus point to this or a minus point to this. So unfortunately some people have things that have that they have had bad memories of when they were children, or things traumatized, and unfortunately sometimes they unconsciously do that again.
Same thing,
and that's learnt behavior. And it's again, when we look at all of this and we dissect this, it's all to do with, coming back to what we were initially saying, knowing who you are. It's all well and good, oh, I'm this because of X, Y, and Z, and I'm like this because of X, Y, and Z. And again, just to make another movie quote, I think it was one of the Sylvester Stallone movies, but he goes, if you do that, cowards do that.
Yeah, no.
And you're not a coward, right?
Okay.
So it's like saying people who go around life thinking I'm not here because of X, Y, and Z are not doing justice to themselves. They're just putting the gun on someone else's shoulder and shooting from it. You need to look in the mirror, take a long, deep look at yourself, and think, who am I? And try to be inspired. If you're I don't know, for example, let's say we don't spend the same time together as we do currently, all right? Yeah. And whenever you have questions, or whenever you need a father or your mother around, then we're not there. Over time, it will cause a slight distance. It's generally called a generation gap. You feel that you no longer can speak to your parent. Okay, I think we're sliding back down to the parenting thing again for some reason. But it's all got to do with how the philosophy is of the home, and whether you've created that loving bond with your child, and they see that, and then they will maybe not understand it, but they'll respect it. Why? Because of the love they have for you. And I think if you do that as a parent, which I believe that my father and mother, or my mother does and my father did, then Allah bestows his blessings. And with his blessings, I think you can find contentment. Because this contentment is not something that you can just switch on and say, I'm being content. And you could be doing 100 different things that are not right as a human being and not permissible as a Muslim. Okay? Right. But you're trying to find contentment. And this is subhanAllah, sometimes I see this. I see people running around. Okay. Running around. Not literally running around, but in life running around. And they don't look content. They're not at peace. They're not still.
Telling their faces.
Yeah, they're not still. They just seem running around. Now, if I was to ask them, I'm sure they'll give me reasons as to why. But it's a habit, or it's a energy, however you want to say it. It's something that doesn't attract me. When something's still and at peace, for example. Okay, we're still there, right? Straight away, your attention is going to that. What are we quiet for? Yeah. It's almost like your senses heighten. It's just like, what just happened? You can hear. Yeah. Right. Now, if you're in a room and there's a lot of noise and there's a lot of that going around, whoops, just hit the mic. Then you don't have the ability or the know-how to know what it is to be still and understand yourself.
That's to do with the environment as well, isn't it? Like city life, you're going to be more fast and probably not as content as people who are in the village, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
All right. So, for example, we often have this, but and again, I see it as a blessing where we are away from the city. I mean, we're only 30 minutes away from London, okay? London, yeah. But we live in an area which is quiet and peaceful. Whenever we have family and friends come here, they say the same thing, quiet and peaceful. Yeah. But then it's areas like this where you have moments where you can think and ponder. And that's what I take from the deen, okay? Yeah. That's what attracts me to the deen, to say that when I'm reading the Quran or I'm reading the translation and I'm looking and I'm pondering, because I've done that as a child. And that's what I say, be sincere to who you are, know who you are. I've always looked into the stars, and as you knew, I was into astronomy as a child, but I didn't pursue it. And I used to love just looking and gazing at the stars. But having that ability to do so. Now, if I was in London or if I was in another major city, would I have done that? Allahu A'lam. Yep. Would I have been distracted elsewhere? Possibly. Yeah. But, here I was given a lot of time to sit there and just think. Think to the extent where it kind of upsets your mother, where she's just like, you just think a lot, it's like, but probably this is why I've started to initiate what we're doing with the podcast. Right. To sit and think, well, you know what? Let's share our opinions. Let's share our thoughts out there and see what, if what we're talking or what I'm thinking is absolute rubbish or whether there is any element of truth in this. So, Coming back to what we were talking about,
Minimalistic.
Okay, so minimalistic, the Muslim element of it now. Okay, so I think we've kind of defined what minimalist means, and it doesn't necessarily mean living a life where you have nothing, but you can enjoy the bounties of Allah, find contentment, appreciate, and understand that these are blessings that can at any point in time be taken away from you. Okay, but you appreciate the gifts you have, whether that's in the form of money, children, homes, anything that you've been given that you feel this is alhamdulillah, and you find contentment in it. And that's where everyone has to work it out for themselves. So what's minimalistic to me may truly not be minimalistic to somebody else or yourself. Yeah, you may think, well, Baba, I only need this. But if you find contentment in that, for example, what do you enjoy doing?
Like art, drawing.
Right, art. Okay, so this is a bit controversial because when I first came across the word minimalistic, it's coined a lot with art and design.
Okay.
Because it's seen as, it's almost like you can see it. It's a design thing. It's an art thing. That's how it was seen. Okay, and to some degree, yes, I think that's where the word was coined from. But it's not restricted to that. It's not kept to that, right? So with yourself, like when you look at art, when you draw an image or a picture on your canvas and you make it simple, or you make it busy, all right, you can probably work out what it is that you're trying to do, all right? But if I showed you a piece of art that was busy, would you say it's not art?
No, it's still art.
Okay. If I showed you a piece of art that was quite simple, would you say that's not art?
No, it's still art.
Right. So what I'm trying to say is that it's a definition that it's like, what does it mean to me?
Yeah.
Okay. If I look at a picture that you said that's when you said, what did we say? What's minimalistic to you? Is that what I said?
Yeah.
And you said art.
Oh no. What's my interest? Like, what do I find? Say it again.
What did I say?
What do I like? My contentment. What I feel content about. What was it again?
Yeah.
I think it's something to do with what I liked. So I remember.
Okay. So we're going back with that point to say that, well, that's what that means to you. Now, there may be a time in your life where you draw a simple image because that's the zone that you're in. There may be a time where you've got so many things in your head and you're like, listen, I've got this idea. I need to get this down on my canvas.
Yeah.
All right. And it may seem busy. I may not understand what you're doing, but you find purpose in it. You're like, there's a reason why I'm doing this. Okay. And if you're able to sit there and understand and it satisfy your need and you're thinking, I'm just doing this for this reason, then brilliant. But I'm sure there was something else we were saying, like, when I said that, that's a good point because I had something to say on that, but now I've totally forgotten about it.
I don't remember.
But okay, so what do you think? Does that open up any? Did you come into this conversation thinking the same thing, or do you think that actually, I've kind of understood that?
So I had the rough idea of what we were going to talk about, and like for example, with the minimalistic thing, as I said before, I didn't really know what it was about. So obviously, you broadened my horizon on that. The contentment, I think I've got roughly,
So the contentment, which is what we said that when you said to me that, can you get this at a young age? And I said that it helped me because, it helped me because, no, we moved on. Yeah, because I remember we said it helped me because when I was growing up, it was kind of taught to me to be thankful for what you have. No matter how little we had, we didn't come from affluent parents who had money, but we made do with what we had. And I truly believe there was a lot of blessing in what we had. Yeah. But alhamdulillah, we're in a position now, alhamdulillah, but it's about taking that and thinking, well, if that's what I believe and that's what helped me, and if I understand my deen and my deen tells me my interpretation, my understanding to say, listen, it's okay to be, to have these things, but be content. These things are for you. Do not serve it. It should serve you. And if I'm able to teach you that, and Allah's blessings are bestowed upon yourself, and you're able to learn that lesson at your age, then you'll do better and greater things because you've already wisened up in your horizons of thinking. I came across this saying from Yanni. Yeah.
Okay.
And for those of you who don't know, Yanni is, I think he's like a Greek. Yeah, he's a Greek composer, and he said something about which he attributed to his father, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said that, you know, my father says to me that your generation live life a year at a time. Yeah.
Okay.
So they live it so fast that it's just like, yeah, it's next year, flying and living it fast. So he goes, whereas I like to live my life a moment at a time. Okay. And then he says about his father that his father does that. He can see his father do that. You know, he's there, he's present, he's you know, he's appreciating his life and how his day, however it is, okay? But he then attributes that to his father and says, look, I am trying to do that or learn that or implement that in my life at this age. So I'm trying to take life. He goes, it's a wise thing to do, but a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
All right, which was an interesting comment, because when you're young, there's a lot of things you want to do. Yeah. You're not necessarily thinking, you haven't got your wise hat on and you're thinking everything, all right, should I, shouldn't I? Okay, hold on. But why did he do such a thing? Because his love for his father, or his relationship with his father, was that much so that he believed that I've taken this from my father. I believe this because it helps me in my life. And this, I'm not saying that, you know, Allahu Alam what his religious beliefs are, or anything like that. But it's when you look at human beings in that way and you're thinking, you know, you've said something that's quite powerful, and you've said something that resonates with anyone of any faith, to sit there and say, find contentment in what you have. And Allah says He'll give the blessings to whoever seeks it, you know. Not whoever seeks it, but whoever pleases Allah. That can be anyone, you know. We know of people who aren't Muslims who Allah's bestowed His mercy upon. Yeah. You know, it's not our call to judge and what. And we're not going down that route as to why, but it's to say that, yes, find that contentment. It can come through any ways, and then Allah, inshallah, will bestow His mercy upon you, and He'll make it easy for you to understand and make your life more meaningful, right? Okay. Inshallah. So now the thing is, okay, so we've kind of worked out minimalistic.
Right.
Can Muslims be minimalistic?
Yeah, why not?
How?
No, what do you mean? They're human beings.
Yeah, it's because we've just discussed about 40 minutes of it.
Yeah. Wait.
Yeah, so basically what I mean is that I'm just putting you late to see were you there? Did you
Yeah, I was still there.
To say, look, in history, when we look at our Islamic tradition, all right, do we look at people and or have we looked at the individuals that history has remembered? And I'm not saying that we have certain scholars, you know, that mashallah that are well documented in terms of their lifestyle and what they did. But if we look at, you know, what that meant to them, right? So did it mean that when we had scholars back in the days that they lived a poor life? Because sometimes you see, oh, you can only be, well, they say humble, isn't it? That you can only really appreciate humbleness if you're poor, or being poor is being humble.
Yeah.
All right, and that's unfortunately something that when I hear, something inside of me that goes, you know, like, again, it's like, well, really? Now, you know, if you had someone with wealth who was a Muslim,
he's not humble now.
And okay, so you had someone with wealth and was a Muslim and was not humble, then you'd be like, right, yeah, bad thing, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you saw a Muslim with money and humble, you'd think, okay. Yeah. Now, but the definition of humble, that's what I'm saying, that you know, a lot of people say you're not really humble. You're not really humble.
If you have a lot of things.
If you have a lot of things, okay? But I disagree. Okay, again, it's where we were. It's the same sort of conversation that we were leading off from minimalistic to say, look, it means something. Minimalistic may mean this to somebody. Like we started off by saying the jetpacker, I need to go, I'm traveling, you know, I'm not married, I'm just going out enjoying learning. Brilliant. But to me, I'm thinking, hold on, does that mean that I'm not minimalistic? I enjoy this, I enjoy that, I enjoy this. other things, but I find contentment in the things that I have, and I appreciate what I have. And we've agreed that, yeah, we believe that's being minimalistic also. So being humbled is the same thing. You could have wealth, okay,
Yeah.
and be humble, and you could be poor and not be humble and be arrogant. So there's no
Yeah.
Do you see? There's no strategy to say, well, if you have this background, you're going to be like this. And examples of that in history are like when you look at some of the imams. I can't remember. I think it was Imam Shafi. Okay. Who was raised in a poor family. I don't know. Have we done that?
Not really. I haven't. I've heard of him before, but I don't really know his story.
Okay, so yeah, so okay, so we're gonna have to do that as well.
Yeah.
But no, but mashallah, you know about the imams. I think we haven't gone into depth about their lives, but Imam Shafi was someone who was born in a poor household. Okay, but his mother was so eager to teach him. I mean, the mothers have always been quite an inspirational for generally, but not exclusively. But so if you read his story, you'll see that despite not having money, his mother had the passion that he needs to learn deen. Yeah, and mashallah, what Imam Shafi's done, as one of our 4 imams, brilliant. Then if you read the story, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, and you look at it, you see a contrast. Okay, do you know what that contrast is?
Did he have a lot of money?
Okay, I'm not sure whether he had his. Now I'm talking about. Okay, so basically his mother.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, he didn't really.
No. Okay. Okay. Let me just backtrack a bit. Okay.
Right.
So basically, Imam Shafi was someone who was poor.
Okay.
And for his mother, it was important for him to have learn the knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal was someone whose mother believed in another thing, etiquettes.
Okay.
She was very into having very good manners and very good etiquettes, and she taught that to her son. And I think history has remembered him in knowing that that's what he was known for as a child.
Manners.
Yeah, so people would see him and he'd be like, he's a well-mannered child, And I think that's how it was seen. But there was something that was written and which he later said about himself, and he would say that my mother would dress me up in the clothes of the scholars whilst I was still a young boy, and she would tell me, go to the masjid and seek knowledge from Imam Arabia, study his manners before you take from him his knowledge. Okay. And
manners very big thing then.
Yeah, I mean, that in itself is a totally different podcast episode, when we talk about akhlaq, because I've got a lot of things to say about that, especially with children nowadays. But it's like there was wealth. His mother would dress him up in the clothes of the scholars, meaning that she would make sure that, listen, you're gonna, and I'm paraphrasing again, you're gonna go and study from the scholars. You need to have a certain etiquette and dressing and coming across, so that you go and learn the knowledge. All right. And so again, what did that mean to her? So it's like, it's okay to dress good and learn Islam. Do you see? You don't have to be, and I'm not saying, every circumstance is different. And this is where I'm going back to and alerting to that. Know your situation, know who you are, and then sit there and say, look, if I've been given the bounty and the blessings and I can do something, then do something. If you haven't, then you make dua. For those that do. And that's the kind of take where I wanted to say about the Islamic scholars, where we have examples where people, imams, have had wealth, and yet they've used it in the right way. So the one mother has dressed her child in a certain way to say, you're going to go and learn Islamic knowledge. You don't dress like this, you dress like this. Okay? And he went on to do great things. And then you have one who unfortunately didn't, but it didn't mean that he couldn't. So each one is put in a different state. It's how you perform in that state. Are you true to yourself? And that's the main aim, the main goal, I guess, of what we're about. or while we started this, to say, listen, it's good to be a minimalist, but that's knowing who you are, and that's who I believe I am, and I believe that's who you said you are. Yeah, that you enjoy things, bounties from Allah, alhamdulillah, but knowing again that your faith actually says this is fine, and in doing so you can taste the sweetness of Iman. You know that when you were born.
Oh wow, okay.
When we were choosing your name,
Right.
and it was like, okay, what names are we going through? And I think for those of you who know me, for those of you who don't know me here, but I was one of these guys that knew. I just don't know. I just knew that when I would be a father, that I would be one of, there's an image that I'd be like, this is how I want to be.
Right.
And it was like, but obviously when I got married to your mother, and when we had you, it was like, okay, what we're going to name her. And at the time we were starting to practice our deen, all right? And it was just like, Iman was like, so it's like, I would say to your mother, every time we say her name, it's almost like we'll be reflecting. How's your Iman today? Oh, how's my Iman today? Yeah, your Iman, yeah, it's quite strong. It's quite, it's like it will be a conversation in itself. Yeah, but it's to say that everything should have significance into it, and if you understand the significance and the reasoning behind it, then it can only help you in what it is that you need to do. And I believe that anyone who feels and has gifts that that the world needs to see, then you need to do it. And the very reason that we started this podcast is because, I believe that there are certain things that I believe in.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm sure you were saying something similar about yourself, but having that platform now where we could sit there and say, well, let's talk about it, bring it into the conversation.
Let's talk.
Absolutely, bring it into the conversation. It's not a matter of being right or wrong. It's a matter of opinion.
Yeah.
And as long as your opinion is objective and not subjective, then I think that you'd have room to broaden your horizon and show a level of understanding and tolerance to those of you who don't necessarily have the same opinion, but you respect one another for the sake of respect. So I could be saying, we've said many things in this podcast.
Yeah.
Half the things could be absolute rubbish. Some people would be like, no, what's he talking about? What's he going on about? But someone may see benefit to that and say, well, you know what? I believe that I'm that as well. And maybe they're toying with the idea that, no, we're maybe not good Muslims, or the Islamic world does not look upon you that way, that you need to be living life a certain way in order to really understand deen. But then who are you doing it for? These people are people who have an opinion which is subjective. Okay? That's the problem. All right? So this is why you've got such a big movement when it comes to minimalism, because people are trying to define, what does that mean? They know that they've gone through the stages of having loads of things. Okay. So you'll come across stories where you've got people and stories of entrepreneurs, businessmen who've had it all and are not happy. So we understand the fact that money does not bring you happiness.
Yeah.
Okay. But at the same time, we know that having nothing also may not bring you happiness.
Yeah.
All right. So that is something that is worked within yourself to think, okay, what do I have? What can I do? And is there a purpose in what I'm doing? So it's coming back to the point that this is a question everybody needs to ask themselves. What do I have in my life that brings me meaning, that brings me peace, that brings me happiness, that brings me joy? Keep those things. Get rid of the things that are the distractions that you feel that, no, this is I go, this affects me. Okay.
With the good things as well, make sure that they're like, when you enjoy something, it may not be good as well.
What do you mean?
Like, how you said that keep the things that you enjoy.
Yeah.
Some things that you may enjoy may be haram or something.
Okay.
Let's say people are addicted to something.
Yeah.
Then you shouldn't keep those things.
Yeah. Like I said, the Islamic element is a given.
Yeah.
Okay. That we look at things that give us joy within the within the realm of Islam and Deen and Sharia.
Yeah.
So it's not like do what you want, fulfill your heart's content, your desires, and can't, because obviously that just goes against what our faith says. All right.
Yeah.
So it's looking at, for example, I don't know, you may enjoy reading.
Okay.
Do you enjoy reading?
Yeah, books, like crimes, mystery.
Okay. But you remember that thing you were saying to me, you go, Baba, I like the smell of new books.
Yeah.
All right. And, you know, whether it's the page of the book or something like that, you like that resonates with you. Okay. Now you could have a massive library and you'd be like, I have a library of books. I love reading. Why? Because I love getting lost in it. I love the smell of it. I like, you know, no, but some, you know, you open a page and you'd be like, that smells, you know, but do you see what I'm saying? Sometimes it has its smell.
Yeah.
You know, it does have its smell.
New books.
Yeah. And sometimes that's something which people enjoy. Yeah. Not just saying that they just go through smelling books. Yeah. But it's the part of having, like, for example, you can't compare it to an ebook.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So the actual physical book, you sit there and you hold and you. But someone could say, listen, minimalism means get rid of all your books and just put it onto an ebook, and you got it all on your iPad. Yeah. Now that may mean something to them, and if they're happy with that and it brings them happiness,
Right.
in that iPad, then fair enough. And if they're achieving the same things, fair enough. But if that guy thinks, oh, I have to lose my library because if I have all these books, I'm not a minimalist. No. Because that's something that brings joy to that person, brings happiness to that person, and they're not doing anything wrong. And that, to me, is like I said, all it is it's not feng shui as much, where you go through your house and you just get rid of everything. That's not minimum. That's just you decluttering your life to say, okay, move this around, don't need that. And that is, I think that's where it starts from decluttering, okay? But it's to find, what do I need in my life? It could be friends, it could be things, it could be, that's what I mean, is what's adding value and what's not adding value to me. All right, so you look at all of that and then you think, okay, don't need that, need that, don't need that, need that, don't need that, need that, would like that but don't need it, put it over there. Do you see? Yeah. So everything like that you categorize, and then you can say, right, off it goes. And then you'll find that actually that is what a minimalistic life actually is, or in my opinion. Okay, so I'm not sure whether that's, you share that. I think you do.
Yeah, I guess I do. I mean, obviously I haven't had much experience in life, so I don't know, maybe. Well,
inshallah, look, the point is to engage thinking these deep questions at your tender age. And to nurture the mind, the heart and the soul in that way, to say, well, you've got people around the world trying to find meaning in life.
Yeah.
Okay. You've got marketing companies throwing things at you saying, well, this is how you find happiness in life, through things. Now that's how things are. Now a lot of people are falling into that trap, but then we revert back to our book and we say, well, our book always says, listen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that only through remembrance of me do hearts find contentment. Yeah? So when you break that down, contentment, the content, we've used that word here already. Content, being at peace with what you have and who you are.
Yeah.
And if everyone wants that, then Allah's saying, well, through my remembrance. Not through buying the latest iPhone, not through purchasing the latest things. Only if you see benefit. And you think that, you know what, I'm going to start something, but I want to make sure that I do it and I do it the best I possibly can. And that's what I've said. Now, there used to be a hadith used to say beautifully in Arabic. Yeah. And I always used to say it to me, yeah, but I think you've forgotten it now. But the translation, do you remember what the translation was?
It was something to do with Allah loves the people who strive for perfection.
Right, brilliant. So that's something that I do knowingly or unknowingly, all right, to say that whatever you do it the best, do it 100%. Not to the level of OCD, but to the level of, listen, this is the best possible thing I can actually create or do or make. You know, it's like when we set this podcast, we could have sat there and said, I could have said, I haven't got all the full equipment yet. I need to do this. I need to do that. I haven't written it down. You know, I don't know what I'm going to do. And we just said, you know what? Just start. Yeah. You know, and it's like, do you remember what that statement that I said about too many people are worried about making sure that they've got everything to start, but with the actual thing they need to do is just start. Go on the mic, talk, and just exchange ideas, see what you're thinking, and for me just to understand whether sharing my thoughts in effect, and saying, yes, we have a certain way of understanding life and certain words, and that comes under the field of etymology, the study of words. But these are things that later on we'll talk and say that what's important. It's important, having those deep, meaningful conversations, and all of this will derive from conversations such as this, where we can sit and say, yeah, we'll talk about this. Another hot potato that I would want to talk about eventually is home education. That's something, because you're home educated.
Yeah.
And you've been home educated for how many years now?
It's gonna be 3 years.
3 years. So you started when you were 12.
Yeah.
Or 11. 11.
I think maybe 11 and starting to go to 12.
Right, because you finished year 6 and then we
Yeah,
home
yeah,
educated you, all right? And there's a story behind that, and mashallah, what you've done and where you are at with the home education is an episode in itself, all right? So we're going to home in into that. So today was purely a pilot to introduce what we're all about, and to kind of say that, what our understanding the simplicities of life, and appreciating those simplicities of life, and taking moments to stop and think and ponder and reflect and just be still. As another guy, Bruce Lee says, be like water. When he says in one of his interviews, still. See, when you're calm, collective, you can think better. And again, I don't know where, again, like, me, I get things from movies. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like when I watched an interview with Jack Ma.
Who's that?
The creator of Alibaba. Is it Jack Ma?
Okay.
Is it not?
I'm not sure.
Okay. And he says, I get inspiration through movies. Yeah. So sometimes I hear things and it just sits somewhere in my head and I'm like, oh yeah, I like that reference. I like that reference. I like that reference. And then it'll just come out, so it's like, yeah, so that's life, as when you're still and you're at peace and you're calm, you can see clarity better. Then obviously we ask Allah to give hidayah. Allah gives hidayah to who, to who he wills. And it's like, but these are the stepping stones that one must do for themselves to appreciate the creator through the creation. So it's a small little effort in that way. And there's other things lined up. So we're gonna wrap it up there, inshallah. But so basically we hope you've enjoyed this conversation about being a minimalist Muslim, and you can actually send us your opinions as to whether you think that share your thoughts, whether you agree with us. And like I said, the follow-up of this will be other similar contents of looking not at complex issues. We're not going to do unboxings. We're not going to look at the latest gadgets, but it's looking at deep, meaningful thoughts and understanding the life and the dunya that we're living in today, and from different angles. Through the lens of a child, inshallah, set up different interviews with people who think similar things, inshallah. But we've got some great ones lined up, one of which, like I said, is about home education, and there's a lot of buzz out there in relation to that, what people are doing and everything. And I think people will be interested to hear our story, because we've done it for some while, and we've had, alhamdulillah, you'll look, just to give you a snippet. Yeah. But mashallah, at the age of 14, you've got 4 GCSEs under your belt. Yeah. All right. So the question will be like, wow, what, how, what's going on? And all of that will come in slowly, but it's sharing our experiences, because it's something that we're thinking, again, being a minimalist, do we need the system to tell us what we need to do? Can we just derive something and streamline it that we can find benefit to? So that's the idea. Let us know what you think, and if we've said anything that's offended anyone, then we ask for your sincere apologies and your forgiveness. But other than that, as I said, the idea is to broaden one's horizons, to think more objectively, and to understand words in their true form. Rhetoric would be another good one.
That would, yeah.
But inshallah, so we hope to hear from you soon. And assalamu alaikum.